And I've known Consolee since we were teenagers. I met your family when I was a teenager in Dublin. So it's
It seems like
and then we lost touch for a while, and now we're back in touch again. And I just think she has such a great online presence. She talks about mental health a lot, which is unusual for a Black woman. It's not very common. It's not very popular, because we're raised to be strong Black women. Don't break down, don't talk about it, don't cry about it. And so it's such a breath of fresh air to have you on my news feed talking about these things that I really talk about and I love talking about. So how are you? Welcome to my show.
Thank you. No, thank you for having me. I've actually been so impressed with like all of your podcasts, the ones I've been able to watch. And yeah, it's a much needed conversation. My name is Consolee. I have an organization, Believe Work Advanced, that basically, which the whole goal of it is just to make mental health in normal day-to-day conversation to have with your friend, with your family. Like, I just think mental health is something that we're born with. We can't run away from it. It's not something you can ignore and just be like, oh, mental health doesn't affect me. You are born with a mental health. And the longer we keep ignoring the fact that that's such a vital part of being a human being, the more disservice we are doing to ourselves and to the people around us. So that's basically the aim of Believe Work Advanced. Yeah, I've met Maureen, I feel like once upon a time, I would say. And it's so great, like, to see kind of all of our journeys from where we started to where we are now and the conversations that we are having. So I'm super, super excited to be here and to just, hopefully add something to the conversation if I can.
Yeah. So if you don't mind sharing with us, what's your background? Which country are you from? And I know you're Irish now. Yeah.
Yeah, I was born in Rwanda. I left when I was 2 years old because of the war, and we moved around a bit after Africa. Then I lived in Africa for about 8 years, and then we moved to Ireland, and I've been in Ireland for 15 years on and off because I always seem to manage to end up in other continents, other countries for a while, and then I always come back. I feel like Ireland has become my home. It's actually the country I've lived in the longest, so it has become my home. But then when you're talking about identity, it's that thing where you're like, well, oh yes, I am Rwandese. I'm Rwandese, but from my lineage, from my parents and everything. But then I've lived in so many places and I've met so many different cultures that sometimes you feel like a nomad, like you don't belong anywhere because you have so many different places that you associate yourself with. That's why usually when people ask me, where are you from? I just tell them I'm from the world because I'm like,
it's too long a story. And especially like you lived in Rwanda when you were 2 years old. So it's not like me. I lived in Kenya till I was about 11. So I have good memories. Like I can remember things like whenever I go back to Kenya, I remember a lot of the streets, a lot of the roads. I don't need a sat nav type of thing. And Tim, when I brought Tim, he was so impressed. He was just like, you still remember? Like, so I have that. And I remember people. I might not necessarily remember names of some people, but I remember quite a lot. So I can see how for you that would be quite difficult. And then you said you moved around Africa a bit. And then living in Ivory Coast. So not even, you're just kind of like,
yeah, it's just what's that thing they call? There's a name they have for people who keep hopping around countries. But anyway, yeah, because I left Ivory Coast. I was 13 years old to come here, which honestly, I think I will just speak from my own point of view. I think we we come to the Western world because of better opportunities and because of, for various reasons that there may be. It's not necessarily because we don't love where we come from. And to kind of like you were 11 when you left, I left when I was 13, to live in that time when you're kind of going into teenage years, because I studied psychotherapy and I studied, the development, child development, and how we create our identities and our belief system. And to have that gap, especially for me, moving from Ivory Coast was a French-speaking country. Then I studied English in school in Ivory Coast, but I did not know much English when I came here. And then you're thrown into school, and then you have to adapt. You have to reconnect. And I remember when I got to Ireland, it took me a good 3 years before I stopped missing. And it's not even that I stopped missing Africa or Ivory Coast. It was just because I felt like, because there was so many turmoils happening in Ivory Coast at the time, and I was planning a trip back to see all of my friends, and I was super excited. I had all of my suitcase, everything, the plane tickets, and then they had a war or whatever, unrest in the country, and I couldn't go. And at that moment, it broke my heart so much, and I was like, okay, I can't think about Africa anymore. I can't listen to African music anymore. I just need to focus on this country that I'm in, and just, and it's because it's something like you're saying, as African people, as women, we are so taught to be strong and to just keep adapting. You don't really take a moment to pause and see how all of those changes, all of those lack of sense of belonging, lack of identity, not knowing who you are, not being able to go back home, not being able, it affects us, but we're not even able to talk about it. You just keep going with life.
And there's almost this thing where you're expected to just be grateful that you're in Ireland now, from both your family and from both the Irish people, I remember my first night in Ireland and feeling really lost. For some reason, ended up in this house. Anyway, and that's where my parents were coming to pick me up from, because long story about how I got here. But anyway, so I ended up in this house with like lots and lots of people. A lot of them were Nigerian. And then my parents were there as well. And some other Kenyan people, and I'm in this bedroom. I think I just needed to be alone, right? So I find this bedroom and I just sit there, and I'm sitting there blankly, like staring at this wall, and an adult in my life comes in, and she's just like, you should just be grateful that you're here. And then she was like, are you not happy to be here? And I was just like I've literally left everything. I spent most of my life without my mom. And up to that point, had never really lived with my stepdad. They had a child at this point. And then, I've left my boarding school with the people that I was in school with, the people that had become my family, and then, my grandmother, who was a big part of my life since I was like 0 years old. And I'm sitting on this bed, really fancy bed, nice house, whatever, but I'm miserable. But I didn't have the choice to be miserable. I didn't have a choice to be sad about it. And especially at 11, 13,
it's such a culture shock.
Yeah. And it's such a major point in your life, isn't it?
Yeah, in the development of yourself as a person, even as what relates, all of a sudden you're in a place that like you say, the streets, your friends, you are at ease because it's what life has been all of this time. And even for me, I remember when my dad told us we were coming to Ireland, I had never heard of Ireland before then. Like I had to go on
Me too.
and look it up. And then because it was an island and it was showing on the map that it's an island, I was like, oh, okay, at least we're gonna have good weather and we're gonna be chilling at the beach and you know. And then here I am on the plane.
Wrong island.
Why is it so cold?
Yeah.
It came around September time and it was raining.
Oh no.
And I remember I was on the plane looking out, and there's because this island has so much fields, so many fields, especially when you're in the sky. And I was just looking at it, and I was looking at my dad. I'm like, "Are you sure this is where we're coming, or are we like on a stopover or whatever?" Like you say, and for us, we were excited to actually come to live in Ireland just because it was going to be a great opportunity for my dad to get better healthcare because my dad had been sick for quite a while, and also for us even better opportunities. You know the struggles that exist in Africa. Even people who are educated cannot find jobs, or even when they find jobs, it's not that really great job that they can. There's a lot of difficulties there. So definitely there was a lot of sense of gratitude and a lot of sense of even excitement at a new adventure. But I think once you come here and you try to adapt and you try to push through, there is that sense of like you can't even complain, you can't even say you miss home, you can't even and for me, not even being able to express myself properly in English, then you're in a new school and you have there's like all of these different terms, all of these different, people will say stuff and I will not be able to understand what they are saying, or if I speak, I'm speaking the wrong way. And then you start going from like a kid who was so joyful and so like outspoken to just slowly but slowly shutting yourself down and trying to figure out where you fit in, trying to find like how can I belong in this environment that I'm now in? And it is hard. It is hard. And that's one of the things. So when people who are racist or who, for lack of better terms, who are not as knowledgeable as I feel they should be, when they start talking about, oh, just go back to your country, or just when I start giving those type of actually, yes, that's another thing, dealing with racism. I never knew racism until I came to us.
Girl, I did not know I was Black till I came here. I was like, what? I'm Black?
And then you're walking on the street, just going to the shop, and you have kids following you with a racist slur, and you're like, you start feeling now your safety is in danger, because they will really sometimes they can really come up in your face and really get at you, like trying to provoke you really, and it's like a bunch of guys, a bunch of girls, and you're just so intimidating. It's a very intimidating and scary process to go through.
And I was gonna say, I remember coming to your house, right? And I got off the bus too early. Did I get the bus? Oh, how was I coming? Because sometimes I would walk the back way. It was a really long walk. So you lived in, was it Clondalkin? No.
I think it was Tala at the time.
Huh?
Was it Tala? I think it was Tala. Was it not Tala?
No, I lived in Tala. And you before, not that time, not that. So you did live in Tala, and then you guys moved to Lucan. So I would sometimes walk down and to see your sister, because I was friendly with your sister. I remember this one time, a group of guys, joyriders in their car, stopping, calling me names, and then splashing water at me, like throwing their water at me, and And I just remember feeling, because it was like, the back road, the Lucan bypass. Sometimes they didn't have a lot of people walking. So I felt so scared. And I was just like, oh my God. But yeah,
that's it. Them type of story, like the one you just shared, like it's some story that we share and we laugh about it, but
it's not funny.
It's not funny. It's really not funny, just because you have no other choice but to laugh about it, because if you have to stop and really think about it, it's painful. Like for me, even hearing that story just breaks my heart, because nobody should ever have to feel that way. Nobody should ever be treated in that manner. And for other people to feel like it's so okay, it's a joke. Oh, I'm here with my friends. Oh, whatever. Here's a black person, thing. And I remember one thing for me, I always kept trying to remind myself is it's not their fault, it's their parents' fault, or it's their whatever. But even then, like it's an excuse I was trying to give myself to just kind of be like, let me not take it seriously, And
But it
there
is.
was a
Sorry.
sorry.
I was going to say it's their fault because these were like they must have been at least 15, 16, and a lot of the discrimination I got, the people were around my age, maybe slightly younger, often my age or older. And
older.
I would never have done that to anyone. Do you know what I mean? I would have never thought that it's okay to do that to anyone.
Thing is, that concept is not even in us. That concept is not even in us. And I think sometimes as well, it goes back to how we're brought up, especially, I always think about the education in Africa and even maybe in a lot of places. I think now it's changing a bit more, but it's like that whole thing of, I remember being in high school because I was in my second year high school before we left. I just finished my second year. And, they teach you all how white people came to Africa and helped us develop and somehow brought civilization to us. And you kind of look, and I always think about how that psychologically affects us, because we're in a position of already loving white people. And I'm not saying this to say we should not love white people. I just think everybody should be, we're all human. It doesn't matter what race you are in. But because of even how in our history books, it will be so written that the white, what the whites have done for us is more than what we have done for ourselves. You're kind of already looking at white people and just being like, oh, they are great people. They are nice people and everything. But subsequently as well, what that teaches other people, if other people of other race were reading it, they'd be like, oh, Africans are less than. Yeah. Or that whole thing of monkeys in the trees and blah, blah, we're just hanging, somehow we were just hanging in the trees and the white men came to save us. And it's really when I got older and I got more into really African history for my own research and for my own understanding. And I started seeing all of the amazing accomplishment we've made and how basically literally civilization started from us.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a, it's how the tables were set up,
Thanks for listening. That was part 1. Tune in next time for part 2. See you then.